Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and obviously, I love all of the guests that we have here on the air, but there are certain businesses that catch my eye, and I think to myself, this is an incredible business that is going to change an entire industry in the way that people not only act, but the way that they think. And that's why today's guest has built something so incredible. When we talk about applications and use cases for AI, today's guest, you'll see, is a very forefront thinker when it comes to innovations, using AI, leveraging AI to make us all perform better. So let me introduce you to today's guest. His name is Congxing Cai. I promised I would try to get that correct. He can correct me live on the air, but to tell you a little bit about Congxing, he has a rich background in leading engineering teams at top tech companies like Snap and Google, focusing on product development and team building. His work has consistently involved creating scalable and reliable software solutions, and he has a proven track record of managing large teams and complex projects. And he's taken all of that experience and bundled it all up into an incredible company and tool that he's built, which is called Synco. Synco is a personal AI assistant built for job seekers navigating high-stakes interviews. It helps candidates prepare by organizing their experiences into strong behavioral stories, practicing with realistic mock interviews, researching companies and roles, and performing with real-time. We're gonna say real-time so much in today's session because I know that's what makes Synco so different. Real-time AI support during actual interviews. We are all gonna change the way we think about the powers of AI and what's possible for building and serving others. I'm excited, so I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Congxing Cai. Congxing, I am so very excited to have you on the air with us. Gosh, just getting through your name. I wanted to do my best there, but fortunately, there's so much good stuff we're going to dive into. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
Yes, well, I am so fascinated. You know, we were talking off air how much I love your business, but I'd love for you to take listeners behind the scenes about yourself. Who is Congxing? How did you start doing all these cool things?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I grew up in China, like in a small town in China, with a very humble beginning. Like my parents worked very hard to make the ends meet, so I didn't get a chance to do a lot of other things when I was young. But fortunately, I find my path in academia and stand out among my peers and getting into a prestigious university in China. And start from young, I was very interested in computer science. So I got the opportunity to join Microsoft Research when they first opened office in China. And then that opportunity connected me with a lot of smart people and brilliant ideas. So inspiring me to come to US to do computer science research. After that, I got the opportunity to join some of the most innovative startups of the time and learning a lot of building, like product and building technology. Now I'm applying that learnings into my own startups as well.
Yeah, I love that overview. And Congxing, I'm going to put you on the spot here because I wish, as a podcast host, I always wish that all the listeners could see our guest businesses here in real time. And I know that real time factors into your business. Obviously, listeners are just being introduced to you right here, right now. Please, in your own words, introduce them to Synco because I'm so excited to get into the nitty gritty of what makes your tool, your platform, your business so different when it comes to usage of AI.
Yeah, Synco is actually AI, just an AI interview like assistant that will help you prepare, practice, and giving you real-time support during job interviews. You can imagine it as a person that always on your side throughout your journey of job search and job application.
Yeah, talk to us about that real-time nature, because I think that, to me, is so different. We're all familiar with ChatGPT, where I can go in morning, afternoon, or evening, or the middle of the night, and have a conversation with it when I trigger, and I can have a conversation with it based on my questions. Real-time AI is so fascinating to me. How does that work?
Yeah, I feel like there is a big change of what AI is capable of doing that will be very unique and different from previous, like apps where you have to take a tap or a click to have the computer respond with anything. But Synco is more like you can imagine there's a AI, like a assistant on your computer that is always there when you turn it on. And as you're going through an online interview or conversation, it is always there. It sees what you see. It listens to what you listen. It understands everything about you. And when you need help, it automatically knows what questions you need to support and pull data, pull information or tips that you need on your hand. So that way it will reduce your preparation time and give you an edge above all the competitions, and in the meantime to really making you less nervous in very high stake conversations.
Yeah, it's so cool because on your website, you have, Congxing, I will say here publicly, you have probably the most beautiful product demos that I've seen on any business website. And obviously, a lot of SaaS companies have really cool websites, but the way that you show how it works and you spell out whether you're in Google Meets, whether you're in Zoom, whether you're in a Slack video call or Microsoft Teams, basically it's a third-party tool that lives there independently on top of that meeting. So if someone's asking me questions, then I have that partner looking out for me. I guess critics, and I'm sure you've talked to some people who have some critical things to suggest, critics might say, so what? Then in an interview, we're all just reading back and forth some AI answers to each other? What's your take on that? Obviously, there's so much value add that it brings to the table. I'd love to hear it from you.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that people, make a lot of people assume that AI is a standard like a tool, like a calculator, right? You give it some standard questions, it will give you the correct answer. Actually, if you're using AI more nowadays, you are realizing it's actually a tool. It depends on what you ask and what you prompt, and the better prompt you give, the better answers it will give you. So from our observation and all the interviews and people's customers we have helped, and one thing we notice is that it doesn't replace effort. If you don't contribute much, if you don't make any effort, the AI will give you the most basic plain answers. But if you just give it your thought, your best creative ideas, and your reasoning, and AI will help you fill the gap and improve it and make it much better in how you rephrase your answer and how you really highlight the key point you're trying to make.
Yeah, that's such an important point. I'm really glad that you put that into our conversation so early on, because you and I can leverage, let's say there was a rock star AI that teaches us how to be rock stars. It doesn't give you and I stage presence. We can't go in front of a stadium. We can't go to the stadium on USC's campus in front of 100,000 fans and all of a sudden be rock stars. We still have to be ourselves and show up ourselves. But obviously, it's that preparation. You talked about it as having a friend who's always on your side. I'm blown away by the depth at which you've trained your AI. It's trained on over 100,000 interview questions from some of the top companies in the world: Citibank, Deloitte, Discord, Expedia Group, EY, Goldman Sachs, brands that we've all admired from afar, and a lot of people obviously have dreams of working inside of there. Talk to us about that training of the model, because job interviews, that's a unique beast to train an AI on.
Yes, actually training the model. If you think about how, no matter where you are in your career, that even you're a senior, you have tens of years of job experiences. When you go out and apply for a job and go through the interview process, is always very, very hard. You have to prepare a lot, reading a lot of materials, and go back to revisit a lot of these common interview questions. There's a lot of materials online though, question bank and YouTube videos and mock interviews and a lot of tips and learnings that people summarized, and the courses. And a lot of this is basically not really teaching you how to do the job, but mostly teaching you how to convert your knowledge and experiences into a very short answer that you can deliver during a interview in very short amount of time and impress the interviewer or whoever is on the other side of this interview. And what we do actually is really taking those materials and letting AI do the a hard and time-consuming work going through that, and trying to then take what about you into very concise and short answers that you can just deliver during a real interview.
Yeah, it's so cool. It makes me really want to bring a conversation that you and I had off the air here onto the air together, because there's so many use cases for this type of real-time AI deployment. Talk to us about why job interviews. You and I brainstormed just in real time, and I'm sure you've thought about it a lot. You and I off the air were talking about 5 different use cases that would greatly benefit from the technology you've built. Why job interviews? Why is that the segment of the market that you honed in on?
So there are many reasons I pick it. I think one of the first thing, I have been working in AI for almost 20 years. Since I was in college and doing research and then building different products. One thing I really passionate that, and also I observed from the many different applications we have built, is that AI helps people to better express themselves, and AI can create opportunities. So there's one thing that when I built and did my startup, like one vision that I wanted to build towards is that I want to using AI to help normal people to better express themselves, to create opportunities. And on top of that, the real-time AI is one of the product insight we feel like AI can be part of the real-time conversation and give the people who on the other end of the table that edge that can really help them bridging the gap, like to really win, like during their whatever kind of purpose of that conversation or communication. So so we think about all these different use cases, and I think a job interview is one of the most important, like almost common, scenario when people need help in real time conversation. And also, at the early time, the model cost for real time AI was much higher and than general ChatGPT, like text based like a model cost. So and also the interview will have a much bigger return if people did it well. So combining all these factors, so we decided to targeting the first application, which is a job interview, where if people did perform well, they will gain much more from that like 1 hour use of the AI. But in the meantime, like it helps people who are in the I would generally say the weak side of the communication, give them power of AI, so we can better connect the two sides and also creating more opportunities.
Yeah, I love the way you articulate that. I'll be honest, we're definitely going to talk about you yourself as an entrepreneur, because it's so clear to me that the way you think, the way you see the world, and really your brilliance goes far beyond just being an engineer and being a developer. You not only build incredible things, but you've thought about all of these things. But I will stick to that developer mind of yours for a second, because what really fascinates me about the way you talk about this is how much the cost of models factors into what's possible in the marketplace. I think that that's something that non-developers, non-builders, we probably don't think of, because we sign up for ChatGPT, $20 a month, we get to use it, however much we use it. But developers and engineers such as yourself, that model costs, which fortunately are coming down, those are driving the possibilities when it comes to that. I'd love for you to shed some of those insights for listeners, because we don't talk about it often enough publicly, but that's going to be the driving force in what people like you are building out there. So where are we at with costs of models these days, and what's your view of the future there?
Yeah, I think right now, if I started from what I have said before, one basis to looking at model cost is that the current AI model is not a standard calculator, right? They don't share the standard capabilities of calculating numbers or doing some standard operations. They have a variety of capabilities depending on how much you're going to pay for that specific capability. So in a lot of ways, I view this AI as certain kind of labors in the market. You probably will pay more for the capabilities or the skill sets that AI exhibits, comparing to some like a remote workers where with more experiences can do that. So combining that, there's a lot of things you could expect from different choices of models, like audio model, or like a real-time model, or multi-model model, and models that can giving more time to think, and also supporting much deeper thinking steps, and even you could give it like more context lens and capabilities on coding and mathematics. So a lot of these choices will contribute to the to the choice and also the cost, like model of the business. On top of that, I think another perspective is that the cost of all these models are decreasing and decreasing very quickly over time. So when I a lot of ways from a developer perspective, when we're thinking about the models, we always develop for the future, right? We know the model is getting better and better, and the model is going to getting cheaper and cheaper. So if we build a product based on the model that probably will come next year, and even though it's a little bit more expensive today, I mean, when next year comes, more people will afford it.
Yeah, Congxing, I haven't confessed this to you just yet in our conversation, but as much as I really admire the AI side of your business and the underlying technology, what's mind-blowing to me, because I talk to entrepreneurs for a living and I don't see as many people get this right, is you also have an incredible user interface and user experience to go along with the very technical back end that you've built. Talk to us about the front end, because that's something that as consumers, we don't fully understand the complexities of what you've built in the entire backend, but the front end looks unbelievable to us as end users. How important was that in your plan for deployment, and how did you get it so spot on, even to the point where I'd love for you to share the incognito feature with listeners who they haven't seen it yet? I've obviously seen it. I'd love for you to talk about those complexities and considerations in the user interface.
Yeah, I think the whole UX UI part is still experimentation. And the way, fundamentally is because AI is so different from any other software we have used before. So it's not a click and tap kind of experiences. And I have worked at Snapchat for many years, like building the product from the ground. And one thing we learned that once you have a new hardware or software capabilities, the way people interact with it will change. So we don't know what is the future AI mode or interaction mode is at this point. So what we are trying to do is really doing a lot of experiments and adjusting the UI UX to see what people will get, how easy people will learn it. I mean, it's still a experiment in progress at this point. So when we're thinking about the incognito mode, it comes from the idea that you think about that, previously we are used to the software where there's only two party here, the user and the software. So you go there and then you decide what to do with the software or with the person on the other side of the software in like an online meeting. But in this case, what we are trying to do is that there's another software in the middle of the you and another software. So how can we making that software useful, helpful, but without really blocking your experiences with whatever you're doing? So that's where the incognito mode comes. And also kind of a use case is that at this point people are still really accepting AI as a software in job, in work, in a lot of things. So there's this reality of today and also expectation of the future. So we are trying to making something less and more invisible in the background, but also helpful when you need it, but without you have to pay attention or you have to discuss about it when you're using your software.
Yeah, it's so interesting hearing all of these considerations, which makes me excited for the next part of this conversation, because Congxing, we've talked about the back end, we've talked about the front end. We've got to talk about you as the founder and the strategic part of all of this, because I will argue that you are not talking like a typical engineer or developer, because it's so clear to me that you've thought about your end user so much, even to the point when we talk about Synco software, it's not just about real-time interview support. It's also about what happens before the interview so that you actually feel prepared. How do you beat those interview nerves? How do you perform during it, but also afterwards? It's like you have a coach in your pocket that actually cares about your success in the future. It just seems like you've thought about every single step and you've incorporated that into the features. Congxing, is that you? Is that the inner marketer inside of you? Is it the empathetic person who understands people? I'd love to get into that part of your brain.
Yeah, I think that's to me myself, I think one thing I learned at the end of the day, what AI really can achieve really depends on how users are going to use it. So it's not just like AI has some capabilities that they will just act, run using that capability all by itself. So it's all about how you can adapt that to users, like a job in hand and what they are trying to achieve. So so you can become part of that process. And another observation or learnings I had with AI is that it's instead of view it as a automatic, like just an automatic component, we should view it as a self learning kind of mechanism. So what it does is that it learns from the interaction with human and then apply that learning to optimize itself. And it continuously learn from the human and then really become part of things that really support each other as it goes. So that's where I do feel, the tech itself it's just some mathematic equations, some computations, but what it can achieve, it really depends on how who use it and how they use it and what kind of a goal they're trying to achieve. So in that way, when I thinking about it, a lot of things we are really a tap like from an AI builder perspective, the way we're looking at it is not about how do we work on the AI. It's more about how do we adapt AI into a process people like already getting used to, and how does that become a self-reinforcement so it can getting better on both ends and really helping the AI getting better and also helping the user achieve their goals.
Yeah, it's so cool hearing about both sides of that coin moving forward in tandem. So I'm going to take this chance to get inside your future-looking mind and your vision for the future. Talk to us about the more macro landscape. I'd love for you, as the founder of Synco, to reveal to us, how is Synco going to progress as the technology, as the market progresses? And then even on that more broad scale, what's your view on the direction that AI is going in?
So I think one thing which I am pretty sure is that I think the job market will go through a lot of changes, because the way we work changes, and also the demand of the business will change, and the business whole landscape of business will change. Almost every business will be changed by AI. That's one of the observations which we think will definitely happen. And second thing is that I think the people who are looking for jobs needs a lot of help, because the market become very, very different. People needs training and learning and new ways to really adapt to this new job market. And the way where I see AI perform or behave in that near future is that you could imagine you have an AI that can basically take a lot of examples I keep thinking of is like for actors or actresses, they are used to have this AI job agent where they contact jobs for them, or go out and sourcing opportunities, help them prepare and help them pick what is the best next step. So I think for everyone in the future, that you probably will have an AI assistant on the side that always there 24/7. A lot of times you just do the groundwork for you, and you can share with some of the thought even unpolished with them, and they get to know you better, and they can go out pitch for you and trying to create opportunities for you to capture. So on one way, we will see it's going to be a lot of upfront challenging for people who are navigating the job market, but in the long run, we'll probably see a very, very interesting world where like we're getting some of the like you could just do your work and then focus on your craft, and you will be connected with better and better opportunities and advance your career that's never before.
Yeah, I love that vision of the future. Sign me up for that. And I hope it's not too far distant in the future, because that's a more beautiful future where we're all just capable of doing more and being in more of service to people. Congxing, I will confess to you that one thing that really surprised me the more that I dug into your work is something that you wrote that you really enjoy about your business, which is building teams, bringing people on board with your vision. And of course, you as an engineer, that it takes a lot of different people to make great projects and products happen. With that said, I feel like you're in a really interesting space where you help people perform better in their job searches. How do you feel that we can, as founders, bring the best people onto our teams? What is this reshaping the way that we're hiring, the way that we're interviewing? What are those things that you personally look out for? I'd love to steal some of your insights there for recruitment.
Yeah, I had some actually very big personal learnings when I jumped into startup and doing hiring. I used to building like teams at big corporations like Google or Snapchat, and I was always the recruiter. A lot of top talent chasing. So I just need to build up the standard process, and then always the smartest people will come, and then we can focusing on how do we making this process standardized, and then how do we making we select the best people out from it. But once I jump into startup, and I think the world changes a lot. Like I made several mistakes chasing, some of the best people I knew from previous network, but they were not ready for do startups. And then I go for some kind of functions where they are very junior, but for the lower price, and then realizing I'm just wasting money that really didn't get whatever I'm looking for. And in startup, that's what your weakness actually defines how the overall performance of the company. So one thing, probably like after several of such lessons, I changed my strategy a bit. Instead of I'm going out chasing people, looking for the best people who I think, they may join me. To something where like I'm trying to attracting them. So I focusing on telling my stories better and go to the right platform, writing about it. And then when people are interested, they will reaching out to me. And you will be surprised that, some of the best employees that I have, when they come into the job, they told me, I asked them, I cannot pay the same package that the other company gives you. And then they just tell me, how much you can give me, whatever, as far as I can afford my rent and food, I will join. So I think that's a big learning that I have is more the job market will probably eventually shipping to more like I would say a dating market, where it's more mutual interest and attractiveness instead of where you go there and like chasing one another, or a standard test process that we see today in big corporations.
Yeah, I love that view of it. The dating analogy and there being mutual attraction on both sides. I think that's something that we all aspire to. And I want to interject here because I think it's such a valuable takeaway for all of us as business owners is that really the brilliance of what you just shared is not merely in the tactics, but it's in building something bigger than ourselves, a clear mission that I fell in love. Our pre-production team fell in love with Synco the second we came across your work. And so it starts with a great mission, great execution, a great product, and that's why there's mutual attraction on both sides. If you don't do good work, then there's no way that anybody is going to be interested in your mission. So a huge kudos to you in the way you do that. I want to squeeze in two more questions. I knew time would fly by with you, but selfishly, I want to ask you one more thing before we get into the final question. And that one more thing I want to get into is your filtering device inside your own mind, because I would imagine that you have new ideas every single day of new ideas for businesses, probably new ideas for what you want Synco to do. How do you filter through those ideas and really hone in on these are the things that we're going to prioritize, these are the things that we're going to pursue versus the things that either you just filter out or you say, no, let's save that for a future date?
That's I would say a very hard challenging, almost, we have to revisit, like a daily, weekly, and monthly. And a lot of times, so there's one observation that there's one observation which is new, and also some kind of like a general best practices in business building or product building, where you always coming to the point where what your customer says. You talk to your customer and learn about what their biggest pain is, and how do you really based on the data to figure out what's the next most important things you have to do. But there's another kind of observation which is new on top of this. I observed recently is that AI making some of the task, not the AI I'm trying to build, but more as the AI as a tool I use is making some of the task extremely easy. And some of the tasks, probably stay the same as previously. So on that way, I would say there's much more low-hanging fruit in the product building or business building prospect comparing to like maybe even a year ago. Like some product features that take 2 weeks to build, like by 3 people, last year may only take me like 2 days to really launch it. So a lot of times, like there's a big chunk or pile of low hanging fruits on the table. So today, I think we not only considering taking into consideration of the customer request or customer like a research, but also considering what are low hanging fruit, what are the things we can quickly do that will benefit our customers. And I think that's something very different from previous product I have been working on in previous life, pre-AI era.
Yeah, and I think that's a really valuable question that we can ask ourselves every single week. I love the fact that you called out, you reassess this every single week, every single month. What is that low-hanging fruit? So often it's something that, one, it's the quickest for us to address, and a lot of times it is the most valuable thing for us to address. We as humans, we love ourselves a good challenge, but so frequently we can make our lives easier while also delivering that big value. So I really appreciate those insights. You've been such a wealth of knowledge. I think that you are brilliant in every single thing that you've built. I love the way that you think and the way that you see the world. So it's no surprise to me that you've been able to build Synco, and I'm very excited for all the explosive growth that's coming your way. But before I let you go, Congxing, I have to ask at the end of every episode, what's your number one best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different levels of their own growth journeys, and also knowing that you're one of us, you're a fellow entrepreneur, what's that piece of advice that you want to leave them with today?
I think if I reflect on what I've been doing in the past few years, I think one advice I want to, probably not advice, but real personal learning I want to share with everyone is that this is the best time to build. We now have some of the technologies that will changing almost everyone's life in the next 10 years or 20 years. And in the meantime, you have the best tool that can help you build that than never before. So you could do a lot more than what you could achieve, in a few years back. So now, like I think it's the best time for you to jump into the field and pick up the new tools and start building. And I would say that's my biggest learning in the last 2-3 years.
Yes, I love that. And hopefully that is a call to action for all of our listeners, because you're absolutely spot on. There's never been a better time to start building and launching things. We are more accessible. We have our fingertips can access more things than at any other point in human history. So that is a very exciting part of the future that we all get to participate in. And Congxing, you are such a shining example of that along the way. I'm very excited for listeners to not just listen to you and I talk about what you've built, but for them to go check it out. So drop those links on us for listeners who want to see Synco and all the incredible technology you've built. Where should they go from here?
Yeah, they can go to getsynco.ai to check out Synco. And also I started to post very regularly on Twitter, x.com/Congxing, or LinkedIn, /Congxing. So, that's where you will hear me to talking about the latest learnings we have.
Yes, and listeners, you already know the drill. We're making it as easy as possible for you to find those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. Trust me, as someone who instantly fell in love with Congxing's business, you want to see it for yourself. There are so many lessons to be found. Even just scrolling through his website, you're going to see the product demos. You're going to see how they've laid out the benefits, the values, the features, and how those are tied to tangible outcomes that their clients are interested in. It is such an incredible use of building something useful and displaying it and sharing that value with others. So Congxing, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for hosting.